Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you have a great Christmas when it comes. Hi, Paul. This is Christmas edition of our question time. As I say, I hope you all have a great Christmas when it comes along. Same with a Happy New Year. You know what to do. Any questions you've got about on the buses, post them up on the screen and I'll answer them as soon as I see them. There's an old thing that's resurfaced on across like the social media sites in the last few days, the last day or two. As obviously there's this rumor that the on the buses were set in Southend, which it wasn't. If you think about on the buses, the only reason it had people think it's connected with Southend is because on the sides of the Eastern National buses, it had adverts for the Cliffs Pavilion Theatre, which is in Southend. The only reason that's there on the side of the bus is the buses belong to Eastern National. Eastern National buses from Wood Green used to go down to Southend. So that's why the adverts were there. Nothing to do with London Weekend putting them on the bus, because London Weekend never could not touch those buses. I work in the railways, and the railways are exactly the same. The buses belong to the company. You can't do anything to them, no matter how much you would want to. Especially LWT, we're just using them for filming purposes. So, hi, on today, that's the only reason the people seem to think it was set in Southend, which it wasn't. If you think about it, there are a few references in it to London. One of the episodes, I think it might be the very first episode, or it might be Olive Takes a Trip, when Terry Duggan, her husband, says, "I only wanted, he was only travelling from Apex Corner." Now there's an Apex Corner in London. So that's one clue straight away. Another clue as well, I think it's one where it might be the epidemic, and Arthur looks into Olive's mouth to examine the tonsils, and he goes, "Blimey, it's like the Blackwall Tunnel." And yeah, well, Blackwall Tunnel's in London as well. So there's another clue for you. So there's all things like that, all add up to say that it was that it's definitely not meant to be Southend. Plus, as well, you take into account both writers were London based. They've lived in London for the majority of their lives. That's Ronnie Wolfe and Ronnie Chesney. And they wrote the omnibuses about Reg Varney, for Reg Varney. And Reg Varney was a East Ender through and through, a Cockney. Yeah, glad you like a name, Scotty. More coming up there. That's if you're anyone that's here. If you're on my Facebook group, obviously they'll carry on getting posted up in the next. Probably take me about another month or so to complete that. So absolutely not from the and there's another clue in the episode Bon Voyage at the very end when Blakey tells Aston to drive the bus to the airport, and he tells him you go to Southend via Basildon. Well, we wouldn't be going to Southend if they were in Southend. So again, that blows that little myth out of the water straight away in the episode as well. Another thing that's come up as well, I've been challenged about the veracity of Reg Varney needing a license, insurance, sorry, to drive a passenger servicing vehicle. Well, of course you do. I mean, if you drive the bus, you've got to be insured. Just like if you drive a car, you need insurance. Just like you need a bus insurance as well. Plus, you need to pay a little bit more for a bus because you're being entrusted to drive a vehicle with maybe upwards of 50 people on the bus. Cheers, Jane. Glad you like it. So definitely needed a license. And the question was asked to the writers as well, and I think the producer as well, and they all said that he was uninsured. He was an uninsured bus driver. He had a PSV license, which meant he could drive a bus, but he wasn't insured. So that clears that myth up as well. Yeah, Irish Fly was in lots of stuff like that, Scotty. Lots and lots of stuff. She really was. She was in an episode of Steptoe Son. Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. Again, that's a funeral episode as well. She was in episodes of the Sweeney. I think I've seen her in 2 episodes at least of the Sweeney. She was in an episode of the of Fawlty Towers. I've seen her in. She was in Carry On Girls. She's in that. Lots and lots of stuff she crops up in. The film, are the films on over Christmas, Paul? Someone asked me this on the Facebook group earlier. As far as I know, they're not on, at least up until New Year's Day. I've got a TV guide that runs right up until and includes New Year's Eve, and there's no On the Buses films. Normally, the place that shows them is ITV3, but it's certainly not on ITV3. The Carry On films are on, but no sign of any On the Buses films. She's also Scottish. She also turns up in sketches of the Two Ronnies as well. So just keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them. I will be going to the more locations to do live videos from in the new year. Might be able to get to do some in January. I'm not too sure which ones yet. I tend to want to go to locations that I need to visit to photograph them, to check off another box for our unknown location photographed with our now and having the then image from the episode of film. Well, if she had done that, Scotty, she might very well have missed out on Fawlty Towers, because Fawlty Towers was around about the time that they were doing Hi Dave, as it was on around about the time that they were doing Don't Drink the Water as well. So you know what to do. Post up your questions to do with On the Buses. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. It can be about the cast, the crew, the production side of things, the buses or filming locations, the walking tours, or the content on the YouTube channel, anything like that, and I'll answer them for you. On my books, anything about my books. If you've not done it already as well, just go on and click on to subscribe to the channel as well. That way you'll see the videos. You'll know when our new videos getting posted up, and you'll know when there's another live question time coming along. Islander. Yeah, that's right, Anthony. Yeah, there's quite a few on the buses cameos in that. You had Michael Robbins played the security man at the studios. You had I don't know what you mean by that, Scotty. From afar, it would have been obviously from a way out distance, like because neither Anna or Michael Robbins could ride the motorbike, so it would have been a stunt rider from a distance. Yeah, I know what episode you mean now. You mean Christmas Duty. But yeah, definitely stunt riders on there because Anna couldn't ride the motorbike, neither could Michael. Cheers, Martin. Same to you. Um, I think it was about 66. I think there was a total of about 66 countries that were on the buses around the world. And it really was on all four corners of the world because you had Australia, New Zealand, Canada, USA. So that's two corners of the globe. You also had Eastern European countries like Finland, Sweden, that was popular in. I know it was sold down in India as well. And I think Malaysia or Thailand bought it as well. So you can see it was a global phenomenon. Oh, I see your comment now, Fox Mulder. Yeah, that's what I mean, Fox Mulder. There was lots of clues to say it certainly wasn't in Southend. And I don't see why they would even contemplate basing it in Southend anyway, considering that the writers were both Londoners, lived in London practically all their lives, and it was written for Reg Varney in mind, who was a Londoner himself. So why would they pick a nondescript, no offence if you're from Southend, but a small town on the south coast, the southeast coast of England? It's a bit like thinking or claiming that Still Game, which is a sitcom I really love, modern sitcom, trying to claim that Still Game was filmed up in the Highlands. It obviously isn't. We know that it's supposed to be an area of Glasgow. You can see that, just like you can see that it's an area of London. Oh, Scotty, the bridge where the bus got stuck on there was in Uxbridge, it's out Northway, near just east of the Uxbridge tube station. I've told you this before, Tony. You've asked this before. No, the answer is no. And I say that and because quite simply they're not bringing on the buses out on 4K, so they certainly won't be bringing out "Don't Drink the Water." Well, they get actresses in, obviously, ones that they knew that they could work with who fitted into the roles well. So, obviously, Sandra Bryant done her grounding in the early 1973 episodes in Series 7. Fitted in well, obviously, gelled well with the cast. So, obviously, she was invited for the film role as well. Plus, she was um, her star was rising because she had been in, was it Fence Street Gang? So she was becoming a more popular actress around that time as well. Well, Linda, there's a couple of reasons for that, really. I mean, about how empty the roads are. And some of the cases when they were filming, they would have closed the roads off, so there wasn't so much. It was impossible for there to be so much traffic around. And also, Linda, on top of that, what you've got to remember is it's a bit like television sets. Cars were like television sets back then, as in compared to today. Back then, not everybody had the television set. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Not everybody was guaranteed to have a television set, just like not everybody was guaranteed to have a car. But nowadays, households can maybe have 2, 3 television sets in the house. Whereas, and the same with cars, nowadays, much more families have got cars and much more families are 2-car families. So that's the reason why there is more traffic on the roads, sorry, and because obviously some of the times they would actually close the street for filming purposes. So there's a couple of reasons why it would look a little bit busier the roads back then. I mean, busier the roads today than they were back then. Yeah, that was obviously Mr. Bronson as well from Granger. He played as well. The only way I would like to see any kind of 4K release of On the Buses is hopefully it would see some extras on it, if you see what I mean. I wouldn't want them just to release it, bring it out as a bog standard release. I mean, why not go the full hog? And I mean, we've got Carry On films that have been released in 4K, and they've got commentaries on it from actors and actresses. They could quite easily do that with On the Buses, if you think about it. I mean, the Holiday on the Buses has still got Sandra Bryant still with us, Maureen Sweeney's still with us, Kate Williams is still with us, Anna's still with us. So a whole wad of people there that they could call upon to do commentaries and all of that with it. Same with the other films. You've still got Anna who could do the commentaries on the other films. You've got Janet Douglas, not Janet Douglas, Janet Mooney. Sorry, Janet Douglas. From Mutiny on the Buses. So there are people out there that could supply commentaries for these films. And for the first film, obviously, they could maybe perhaps ask Jean if she wanted to join as well, Jean Varney. You had a very small part in the first film, but I'm sure she could also interweave into that thoughts of what her dad felt about working on the films, if you see what I mean. No, I know that they're not. I mean, my TV guide I've got is this one here, and this only runs up to New Year's Day. So they're definitely not on, and I've looked through that. So, but I mean, like I say, you've got the DVD, you can watch it any day. It's possible to be on. Yeah, there are quite a few locations that are have changed very little. Obviously, you get ones that have changed a heck of a lot. You know what I mean? I think there's a bit of maybe a little bit of misty-eyedness when people always say when I'm doing the run through. Don't know how many people that are here are actually on Facebook who are going through the run throughs with us, but a lot of people always come out and say, "Oh, it looks so much better then." But there's a heck of a lot that I spot, and I'll say straight away, "Nah, looks better today." I mean, the ones that stand out straight away for me in my head are the ones from the Inspector's Niece, which was filmed in like at Holland Park, Notting Hill sort of area, where they also filmed scenes of the Sweeney and Minderland in that area as well. I mean, back when they filmed the Inspector's Niece, no, sorry, the vacancy for inspector, when Jack gets a job as an inspector, that location there looked like dive back then. That's really been tidied up a heck of a lot. It looks a lot better today than it did back in 1971 when they filmed there. And there are other locations like that as well. It happens. I mean, I'm not one-eyed enough to say blindly that everything was all the locations looked better than 1970s because they didn't. The another one that springs to mind is the location when the woman goes on a diversion, when she drives down the road and it's got all white houses on either side of the road. I mean, they looked tatty then. They look a lot better now when they put the sort of like the brickwork on the outside of them. So there are locations that do look better today than when they did back then. And of course, what people have got to remember as well, that the ones that looked better back then, well, they've got a head start because they've got 50 years less grime and age to date them, if you see what I mean. You think back then, a lot of the houses that you see in the back then would have maybe only been 20, 30 years old, whereas today they're 70, 80 years old. So obviously, a lot of them are going to show and start to look a little bit not as good as they did back then. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, yeah, that's right. UFO was in the allowance. I think it was the penultimate episode or the third last episode. Yeah, third last episode. Nah, no, Scott. He didn't do the skid pan test on the in the film. That was a professional bus driver. We know who that was, and strangely enough, um, I think his name was Bob Butler. Would you believe? Because the driver's family have been in touch with me and said my dad drove that bus on the. But we know it wasn't him anyway because he used a simple technique, Scotty, which he did for a lot of the driving scenes when Reg is at the wheel, which is like a back screen projection. So all it would have been is Reg sitting at the wheel, moving the steering wheel around like this, with our back projection with moving scenery in the background. But the bus would have been stationary in the studio, if you see what I mean. So that's how they've done a lot of this stuff. They've done a lot of a lot of stuff in general back then. I mean, you watch old things like rather than hot cut, they ceased to use that technique a lot of the times as well. A lot of the stuff back then was like that. Cheers, Neil. Um, I don't see why not. Cheers, Merry Christmas to you too. I don't see why not, to tell the truth. I mean, it's 50 years and still going strong now. So I'm sure, I mean, a lot of the people that are fans of it now are like second, third generation, if you see what I mean, of people from after On the Buses actually ended. A lot of people that are fans of it now and big fans, I'll guarantee you, didn't start watching it until maybe the 1990s, early 2000s, watching repeats of it on the telly or the films, or were brought up on it by their parents. So they're like second generation fans. Now, I'm sure if they've got the bug big enough, which a lot of them do have, then obviously when they have kids, they'll pass it on to their kids. So that's how it carries on the flow. And as well, it also helps with them being repeated on the telly. I know, and the films. I mean, a lot of people, we always have people moaning about the edits and all that. But when you look at it, the films being screened are airing it, are advertising On the Buses out to the fans of today, if you see what I mean. So it's great that they are still on telly, whether they've got 1.5 seconds of a naked bum cut out. Who cares if it's keeping our whole generation of fans involved in the a new generation of fans getting into On the Buses? That's what I say. No, it's just something, Paul, I remember watching when I was. I remembered watching when I was a kid. With my brothers, I remembered watching it, but then it sort of like went off the air. I remember liking it as a kid when I was far too young to get the innuendo, sexual innuendo sort of type jokes. Then disappeared from the screens, obviously, and then it resurfaced again about 20 years later. And that's when I fell in love with it all again, and I got to watch it through adult eyes. I mean, I was always a big fan of the Carry On films, and to me, they always struck me as very similar in terms of brand of humour to the Carry On films. Now, Stephen actually did do that stunt, Anthony. If you look when he's sliding along the ground, you can actually see the wheels of the trolley that he's on. So he wouldn't have been sliding along the ground with his back and contact with the surface of the ground, if you see what I mean. That was all done with him on a trolley, if you see what I mean, with like wheels on it. You couldn't really do it today, London, all honesty. So it's not really one a question that I would ever really think about an answer for, if you see what I mean. Um, I don't think there'd be any obstacles for location filming though, in terms of that wouldn't be that side of it wouldn't be a problem. I mean, there's a heck of a lot that's still filmed on location and high streets and things like that. I mean, an excellent example of that is Casualty, for example. I mean, I remember once I was down at in Boreham Woods. I think it was either for a meeting to organise one of the events, or it might be the event weekend when I was in our Wetherspoons having our breakfast. And right across the road, I've seen the film crews out on the corner of the road filming a scene from Casualty. So it's not really a problem doing the filming locations. I don't finding filming locations, that wouldn't be the side any issue at all really with it. Nah, Neil, I don't think it will. As I said, I've looked through my TV guide there, and there's nothing on up right up until New Year's Eve, and including New Year's Eve. It's possible they'll show them on New Year's Day, though. That's a possibility. But my TV guide doesn't stretch to New Year's Day. So if anyone's got one for New Year's Day, a guide, they can maybe film me in here. But right up until New Year's Eve, it certainly isn't on even at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, Blakey went on, was done his inspector bit a lot of the times on the Generation game when Jim Davidson was comparing it. He would always come on every maybe second, third week. And there was as you say, I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about with the Cilla Black, where Anna Karen turns up, and so is I think it's Carol Hawkins, and I'm not sure who the other woman is. But of course, you had the sketches as well from the Christmas specials. They were like done for the ITV Comedy Carnival. They would have a comedy carnival at Christmas time, and they would have 5-minute sketches from the hit sitcoms of that time. So On the Bus is actually done too. The 1971 has been wiped. That doesn't exist anymore. And I think it's the 1972 one that is on one of the Comedy Carnival DVDs. So there's those as well. And that's if you're talking about just the ones with the On the Buses stars in them. Like obviously, I know Michael Robbins. I think he done a McCain's Chips advert. I know that Bob Grant done an advert for a Finnish advert. I can't remember what it was for again though. But I know Bob Grant done an advert for Finnish TV. It's funny seeing his voice being dubbed like. So there are quite a few around. Yeah, it was good to see it, and I thought she played a really good part in the Holiday on the Buses as well. Cheers, Jordan. I'm glad you liked him. As I say, watch out because I will be doing more next year as well. Hopefully, I'll be out and about and doing some in January with a bit of luck. But watch the space, and when they're up, you'll get a notification if you're a member. If you're not a member, subscribe to the channel, and then you'll get a notification whenever I put up any new videos. No, not really, Linda. I mean, they filmed Bill right around in the centre of London as well, and that was only right up until about 5, 10 years ago. So that's not really an issue. If you're talking about with the COVID thing, then yeah, most definitely. But obviously, once hopefully when COVID goes, hopefully pretty soon, I don't think that'll be an issue as filming out in areas like in London and all that. I don't think so at all. I mean, the film right around the corner from me up here, just about 100, 150 meters up from me, where they were filming on scenes for a Netflix series that David Tennant's in. They were filming up there about a couple of weeks ago. So, and that's just right in the centre of Edinburgh. So, I don't see any reason to stop them filming right in the centre of London. I wouldn't see a problem with anybody filming in the centre of London either. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the laundrette's still there. Obviously, the signage and all that has changed. It's probably got second or third generation of owners, new owners in there now as well, running it, management and such like that. Yeah, it's still a laundrette, just like the laundrette that featured in Family Flue Series 2, which is in Kingsbury Avenue in Kingsbury in London, just sort of about maybe less than a mile north of Wembley Studios. That's still a laundrette as well and virtually unchanged. Yeah, that all came from the LWT canteen. They would just bring that along the corridor right into stage 5 at Wembley Studios. Uh, oh yeah, they filmed a heck of a lot of stuff. As I said, when you were down there from a walking tour, Neil, they filmed a heck of a lot around there. Just like they filmed Ramsden Hopkirk just off either was it Cardinal Avenue or White House Avenue. So there was a heck of a lot that they filmed in and around the Boreham Wood area, especially ITC Sirius. I think you see the Barclays Bank on the Shenley Road as well in our episode of the Champions too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I said. The Champions. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Yeah, and the thing is, as well, Linda, what you've got to remember is they went into areas, laundrettes, service areas where there wasn't a lot of room for niceties like a washing machine or whatever. So that's why they were there to service. So that hasn't the sizes of the flats and houses around there haven't changed. So there's still that market for them. And on top of that, you wouldn't really get the many places who would want to sort of like convert a laundrette anyway. They would have to take out the amount of work it would take for taking out all the washing machines, all the water piping, and all things like that. It'd be astronomical. So that's another reason probably why they're safe as well. Something tells me, Scotty, a good chance that that was um, um, Bob Grant's cat. Bob Grant was a big cat lover. Anna Karen and Terry Duggan, her husband, they were great dog lovers. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all of the I think all of the dogs on the that you saw on the buses were belonged to Anna and Terry. Nah, Jane, I haven't watched that. It was the filming locations for the majority of ITC stuff because they were all based in the Borehamwood studios, the Elstree studios, or even at the MGM studios. Of course, it wasn't predominantly in Borehamwood, but around in the surrounding areas, like filmed up in Shanley, where they filmed scenes for the On the Buses film. They filmed in areas like Radlett and St Albans, all areas around Borehamwood. They wouldn't really travel very far for cost purposes. They did with Brandon Hopkirk travelling to the centre of London for filming a lot of the scenes for that as well. But heck of a lot was filmed around Borehamwood. Yeah, yeah, that's right. And Terry Duggan was Anna Karen's husband. Yeah, and you may have heard of another actor. He's in a heck of a lot of stuff and smaller roles. Derek Lyons. Derek uh, Derek Lyons' uncle was Terry Duggan. I don't think I've ever heard of it though, Jade. That's the thing. I'm not really into a lot of these sort of spoof videos though. That's how I find it. Because they tend to be more of Mickey takes rather than sort of like done with love, if you know what I mean. But we'd need to see it, obviously, to judge it, if you see what I mean. Well, that was quite a simple one. It was just called The Snake, that's all, Jakey Bear. The episode was called The Snake and it was in Series 3. Yeah, yeah. The one that played Chalky in Series 7's Jules Walter. Both of them, it's really odd because both of them actually went on to be in sort of like cult sci-fis, really big hit sci-fi films. Both of them did. Glenn Witter went on to play, I think it was on in one of the what's the name? Hawkmen. One of the Hawkmen and Flash Gordon film. Jules Walter went on to be a Nerf elder in Star Wars. Was it Return of the Jedi film? So they both went on to be in sort of like really big hit, really big hit films, sci-fi films. Yeah, Ben, I'm here on duty. Yeah, as I say, Linda, on the buses disappeared from. Like, I mean, I remember when I was a kid. Obviously, I remember watching them the first round of repeats, probably around about the mid 1970s. I remember watching on the buses then. But I would say that it wasn't repeated on TV from maybe the late 1970s onwards until about 1990s, and then I think it was Granada Men and Motors or something like that that picked it up. Yeah, there was lots of things going there that they couldn't get away with on telly now, if you see what I mean. It's just a big no-no, basically, which is a bit. I'm all like I can get understand the part of why they won't put it in now because it's a very sensitive matter, obviously, in this day and age. But I think a lot of the problems as now, there's a much more troubled society for gagging people than what there was back in the 70s when it was a more open society, if you see what I mean. All right, I know a lot of people might have got bullied at the time racially and all of that, which wasn't good. It's not ideal. But in terms of racial attacks and things like that, I would say now there's far more of it than what there was back then. That's what I would say. But that's just me. No, she passed away, Anthony. Oh, I can see her face. Julie Mendez. I do believe she passed away maybe a few years back. But I would need to check on that. Something tells me she's passed away. And she was actually the lady there that getting the snake charmer in that episode. She actually see her as a silhouetted dancer and From Russia with Love. So if you watch at the start of From Russia with Love and you see a silhouetted dancer and that's actually Julie Mendez. Unfortunately, I've not got that Forces TV. I did used to have it on my camera BT, but I just seem to have lost that Forces TV channel now, sadly. Well, definitely need to watch out for that. I'll see if I can find it in some other circumstances, if you see what I mean. I'll try and see if I can dig out a copy of it somewhere or dig around on and see if I can find it. Hi, James. Cheers, fat lad. Now, as I say, I've got a TV guide that runs up till New Year's Eve. As far as I see, there's no films on. They might be on New Year's Day though, so don't give up on it yet. It's possible they might put them on New Year's Day. Oh yes, Scotty, it was definitely Indian food. Obviously, I can't say how hot it was, obviously, but obviously it would need to aesthetically look like Indian food, so it would have had to have been Indian food that we're actually eating in the episode, if you see what I mean. Well, I don't like saying blasé, but I think I'm the one that would be the one to do the commentary on the movies. I mean, Robert Ross is more of your carry-on go-to person, if you see what I mean. Not your I would hold my hand up and say that I probably know more about on the buses than Robert Ross does, if you see what I mean. Robert Ross is more of your carry-on sort of area. Not having anything against Robert Ross, like, but I mean, when I've researched on the buses, done 4 books on it, organised, don't know, about a dozen cat on the buses events, met 40 to 50 the cast, met the writers several times and the producers. So you pick up lots of information through that, lots of information. it's quite possible, Scotty, with that stunt being done there was maybe a defect in the bus window as it was, and it was going to be replaced. So it was one that was expendable. They could smash it if they wanted to, because it was going to be getting taken out anyway. I would imagine that was the reasoning behind that thing, because obviously LWT wouldn't have paid for anything that they didn't have to, if you see what I mean. So they probably had a bus window that every so often they needed replaced, because they might have had a small crack in them. So it was going to be getting taken out and replaced anyway. So they used it in the filming, if you see what I mean. Nah, James, I don't think they were all together for that, though, were they? That LWT 21 show, they weren't all there, because I don't think Reg was there. And I don't think Anna was there either. So it wasn't all the cast that was, as I remember it. I think Doris might have been there, Bob might have been there, and I think Michael Robbins turned up as well. And Stephen Lewis might be there, but I don't think Reg or Anna was there. There was a couple that weren't there for that. So it wasn't all the cast back together for that. The last time they would have been all back together on screen was for the Wogan interviews in the early 1990s. Well, the reason for that's quite simple, really. I mean, there wouldn't have been anywhere quiet enough that they could have filmed that scene in peace. And with the nature of it, it was risky as such to have a runaway donkey. It could have ran and trampled over a holidaymaker or something like that, and include costs for injuries and such like. So the only place, the best place to do it, where you could film it under no duress and no stress of keeping people out of the way and all of that, was back in the on the back lot at the studios. So that was the reason for that, Linda, if you see what I mean. Yeah, the band, Scotty, was called Quince Harmon, that done That's Great Life on the Buses. So your Quince Harmon were a band that were EMI were looking to promote at that time. They had signed them up on a contract. So obviously they thought a great way of promoting them was to get them to do the theme for the On the Buses film. That obviously the music was already written for it, so they got them to perform that. But their career didn't really take off. They started off on the working men's circuit and the working men's club circuit up in the northwest, and I do believe, like from the late 80s onwards, they reformed as Reunited. So if you do the club circuit and working men club circuit up and around the Sheffield area, was the last time that were heard of, and you see a band called Reunited, then that is actually band members of Quince Harmon. Now I think you mean the man who's leading the singing is actually Blakey, not Arthur. Ben. It's Blakey's done up like, because he's got this striped jacket on, the same striped jacket, I think it is. Yeah, take a look, James. I mean, as I said, I saw it was on YouTube. Somebody's downloaded it onto YouTube, and I watched it. And as I say, I'm well nigh certain, because I think they make a passing joke as a reference, because Michael's one of the last ones that comes out, and he's got a bottle of champagne with him. And I think whoever was hosting it, was it Julia Hungerford, was it something like that? But anyway, I think they actually say to him, "What have you done with Olive?" See, because she isn't there. That's why I'm pretty certain that Anna wasn't there, and I'm pretty certain Reg wasn't there either. It's Quince Harmon, the name of the band. QUINCEHARMON. Just one big long word. No, it's not the Quince Harmon, it's just Quince Harmon as the name of the band. You won't find a lot about them, obviously, because it never went on to be a massive, the biggest hit, the most that they were known for, obviously, is the On the Buses theme. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. I knew somebody wasn't there, James. Well, I did on my Facebook group, Neil. I did offer up to running through the episodes and let people rate them out of 5, and then I would work out. I used to do it when I ran a forum. I've done that, and it was always quite popular to run through all the episodes and let them rate them out of, say, on a poll or score out of 5, and then work out the actual score of it, if you see what I mean. It might be something that I end up doing again once I've ran through all the episodes on my Facebook group. So watch the space, if you see what I mean. Yeah, there are maybe about, I'm not too sure. Most of them are from the episodes. I think it's Nowhere to Go, when they crashed the motorbike out in their country lane. I've scoured North London, not countryside out north of London, countryside northwest of London, northeast of London, for a little bit further south, like West London to no avail. It might be that it's changed beyond recognition. I don't know, but that's where there's maybe about 6 locations alone in that. There's the locations that I do believe were probably back at the studios. Definitely, sorry, I'll rephrase that. Definitely, the studios are the 2 scenes from the goods where they go to get the paint and the toilet from, and the holiday on the buses. That would definitely been back at the studios. We know that because I've spoken to a couple of people who were based at the holiday camp, who worked there, and they don't recognise it as anywhere at the holiday camp. I've scoured the holiday camp as well. Certainly doesn't look like it's anywhere at the holiday camp at all. And the holiday camp hasn't changed in all those years. So I'd say with a degree of certainty that was quite possibly on the back lot of the studios that was flattened where the Tesco's extra stands now. So sadly, that looks like that one might never be found, or those that location. And there's a few other bits and bobs here and there, but as I say, only maybe about 15 to 20, I would say, off the top of my head, that haven't been found. As for your Fox about the list of New Year location visits, um, I might try and get to the farm that I've just covered just now in the ridge where he falls into the manure after he falls off the side of the bus. I might try and get to that one, but the only problem with that is there's maybe only, I might very well try and do that one because it's maybe about half a mile to a mile's walk away from the location where this motorbike is heading along the country lane and then goes over the humpback bridge. So there's 1 or 2 angles from there that I could photograph as well while I'm down in that area. So it would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That's a possibility. There are a few new locations that have been on there from on the omnibuses, which is down just to the east of Haywards Heath and Sussex. So that's another possibility sometime in the new year. So they're just some of the examples. Obviously, there's the location as well where Mum and the opening credits of Series 1. I know where that is now. I've just got to try and get there to photograph it, which is just south of Alexander Palace. I think it's on Alexander Gates Palace or Palace Gates Road. I think it might be on something like that. No, they've done loads and loads of stuff anyway. They were in Wilfrid Bramble and Arthur Mullard comedy films, so it's not really all that strange, if you see what I mean. I know that Doris got on really well with Ralph on the filming side of things. as for the bus stops, well, props people could do anything. They were geniuses. They could make um, miniature scale things look like full scale sized objects, if you know what I mean. With the props and how authentic they could make things look, that was their skill, and they done it really well. So it's no real surprise that they could do. A lot of the times, the bus stops as well. What you got to remember, they weren't actually bus stops. If you only saw sort of like the top part that said bus stop, that would normally be, a lot of the times you would just have it clasped onto a lamppost. So they never actually need to make the post bit, they just needed the sign with the clamp part on it to clamp around the lamppost. Or failing that, they would have maybe a prop one which would only stand about 6 feet tall. That didn't really look all that good though, to be honest. You could see that that was just a prop. But they were really excellent at making these props, the props department. I mean, it's their skill, it's their art, basically. Yeah, exactly. That's what they were like, Fox Mulder. They were really highly skilled people. Now, Stephen Lewis never had anything to do with the name Luxton, no. That was all down to the writers who Ronnie Wolf and Ronnie Chesney, who created the Luxton name. Yeah, the episode that Olive's divorce, the first one in Series 7, that was like January 1973, so it would have been called, no doubt then, it probably been maybe filmed around about maybe 5, 6 o'clock at night. Cheers, Rob. Thanks a lot. Glad you like to clear the same to you. Have a nice Christmas over there. And to any other US fans that are watching, or any other On the Buses fans around the world. No, the Foggy Night episode, Scotty, that was filmed in the studios. Obviously, the part you see them out in the country lane earlier in the day when it's daylight, that was actually out at Old Reading and Harrow. So that was filmed out on the actual country lane. But when you see it in darkness at night and it's crawling along, that was actually in the studios. All they done to for the to make it look like fog was a smoke machine. So it was actually smoke, not fog, that you were seeing. But you wouldn't really know the difference as you uh, yourself will see there. I mean, you actually thought it was outside. They'd done such a good job on the fog. It's probably Luxton was probably just our mixing of London and Luton, basically. I would say something along the lines of that. That's all it basically was. But definitely, for there's no doubt about it in my mind. It was a suburb of London when it was set on the buses. I mean, people who lived in London around that time anyway, they would know it was London, because there's some people that were watching it then, especially around the Wood Green area, would recognise Wood Green straight away. So there'd be no point in being a pretense and making out it was filmed in the East Southend anyway, if you see what I mean, or wherever. Yeah, he would have been. All of the extras were actors. They all have to do something that they wouldn't have been doing, if you see what I mean, to make the part work. So they may just be extras, but they are still actors as such. They still have to play a part, if you see what I mean, in the scene. A lot of the problems that you've got with a lot of the extras is, though, if they never actually speak, then you're not going to really get to know their names because you never see them credited anywhere. It's a bit more of a help if you see them in something else and they actually talk and they get a small credit at the end of the episode that they're in, at the end of the film they're in. Then you can work out what their actual names were. But a lot of the times you can spot somebody in the background from and on the buses, maybe one of the films, but they don't actually say anything. And then the same, you might see them in an episode of the Sweeney, for example, but they don't say anything, so you've got no way of really tracking down the names that way. Yeah, that was all at the studio at the night time when the buses come in. Definitely, that's the studios. So keep all your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. No, that's Nosha Powell. I think you're getting them confused. You've got Nosha Powell as the one who picks up the clippy above his head. That who picks up Pat Ashton. That's Nosha Powell. The other actor who played Basher is called Morris Bush. So the two different characters. That was in the episode Private Hire. Morris Bush was in. But Nosha Powell's actually in a couple of the episodes. It's in the might be in 3 episodes actually. Nosha Powell, and he turns up again as well in the and they're obviously in the first film as Turner and Betty's husband. Well, I would say it's pretty much set in stone that it's the Midlands, James, because that was the heartbeat of the car industry, was the Midlands. Obviously, they had the Talbot plant and Jaguar plants in Coventry. They had the British Leyland plants in Birmingham. They had another plant in Coventry as well. But that was where all the car factories were. So I would say more likely than not, it was the Midlands. Yeah, I've got a fair list of the ones of the extras and all of that, but might not have all of the extras. Yeah, certainly it's changed in terms of, if you've got to remember that it's 50 years since they filmed that at Old Red and Neil. So it's going to change. The trees will have definitely grown in height, obviously. Some actually get chopped down. I think when I went there and took my locations photos, and I actually done a video as well, I think it's on here somewhere. You can actually see the stump of one of the trees that's been chopped down as well. That would have been there when they filmed on the buses there. There's things like that that can really sort of like stump you, pardon the pun, when you come to try and locate a location. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Cheers, Andrew. Glad you're liking them. Hope to add to them over the next coming year. Funniest moments from the Sirius Fox, probably the the breathalyzer test and brew it yourself. Cheers, Scouse Alan. Happy Christmas to you too. Films. Oh, there's a lot from the films. So many from the films, it's hard to really pinpoint on one particular scene. I do love the banter that Arthur has with Olive in the first film, like the parts where he says, that's not it, that's a not my pajama cord. I love the line that he has as well when he goes, oh no, I'm not giving up my telly. When Olive goes, the doctor says you'll have to give up one or two of your little pleasures, and he says, oh no, I'm not giving up my telly. I thought that was great as well. Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, you get that on all of the various interviews they've done over the years. Anna says that in one of the interviews, it might be the interview that's on here, that's on the back end of the Bob Grant interview, when she said that was a big core part of the success of the show, was how well the cast all got on. I think in the interview that's on before it, Bob states that as well. In the Wogan interviews, I think Doris taps on it when she said they're all like one big happy family. So yeah, it all shines through that they're ready to come back and work together again after what, nearly 20 years. Plus, as well, you got to remember that they worked on other projects as well aside from On the Buses together. Well, it was sort of On the Buses, but Doris, Michael, Anna in the early 1980s, they went and done a stage show called On the Buses, A Fresh Start in Canada. Bob, Stephen, and Anna done I think it was a stage show, was it the Busman's Holiday? I think that was in Yarmouth. I think that stage show was in there about 1972, 73, sometime around about then. They also done another one, I think it was called Stop It Nos. So they worked together on other things apart from On the Buses, if you see what I mean. So they certainly wouldn't have bothered doing that, spending more time together if they did. I mean, in the interview as well, I think it's the one that I've got here. If not, it's another one that I've got somewhere that I just can't find. I had it on the memory stick. It was a Bob Grant interview, and Bob's might be the one that's on here. I can't remember. But Bob's asked if he kept in. This would be about the early 1980s, and he's asked if he keeps in touch with Reg Varney, and he says that he does. He phones him up. He said that he phoned him up once a week. So to still be talking to somebody in contact with after you haven't worked with them for nearly 10 years, it says a lot as well. You need to go through the channels of in Canada, I think, where they might release some of the footage, but I don't think there is any. It was partially recorded by Ronnie Wolf on like a cine camera, but that is about it. It's not. It wasn't recorded in full or in any other way, shape, or form. James. Well, the films were all about. They said that the reasons the film transferred so well to the TV series transferred so well to the films, that allowed them to expand on a lot of things, as in the sketches that they did. So they could expand get far more out of the radio control sort of like sketch. Whereas in the TV series, they only had time to show them contacting an airplane overhead, but it was much more expanded upon for the films. You had them, all right, it was the same idea, but basically it was a heck of a lot different, because you had them contacting a policeman on his beat, you had them contacting policemen in a patrol car, which you never got, if you know what I mean, because they had the extra time to expand on them. Cheers, Paul. Well, by the early 1980s, James, Reg had had another serious heart attack, and he had some strokes. So he wasn't in the best of health around about then in the early 1980s, when the stage show was going on anyway. So he wouldn't have been in any fit state to do the show in any case. And it was always written without Reg being in it, because it was being was written as in on the buses at Fresh Start. Yeah, that's right. That's where they met up. So they were friends long before they had even gone on the buses together, and then they worked together as well and that's where they were spotted for the part of on the buses. They were in the TV adaptation of Mrs. Wilson's Diaries, which was incidentally that was produced by Stuart Allen, who went on to produce On the Buses. So that's where they knew them from. Recommended them for the parts and On the Buses. And of course, Stephen was Bob's best man at his wedding as well. So that again, that just how tightly knit they were as friends as well. Yeah, that's a good line as well, Andrew. Yeah. Well, I've got the DVDs obviously, so I can pop the films on whenever I want. Neil, so probably give them an air in, if you see what I mean. Obviously, I'm still running through all the film indications on Facebook, so they'll be going up daily as well. So that will still continue. There might be a break for Christmas Day or such like. So it will still be taking up my time, obviously. Yeah, they did Anthony, yeah. Of course, they were noted playwrights by that time anyway, so they were the natural successors to Ronnie Wolfe, Ronnie Chesney, if you see what I mean. Well, it was around that time from then onwards when he took a further interest in stuff like painting, which he was turned out to be a very talented painter. So obviously he turned his time to more less strenuous, if you will, sort of more relaxing, more probably better for his health projects like that. Obviously, if our stroke is not sort of it doesn't affect your speech centers, you can recover after a few months off and all of that, or maybe a little bit more than a few months, obviously after a serious heart attack, if you see what I mean. But it's not like your Reg had been semi-retired since the sort of like the mid to the late 70s anyway, so better done. That's a good question, Neil. Let me think about that. You know, I think they made a big, wasn't so much anything to do with on the buses as such, but they made a big mistake in the end of Series 4 when um, Rupert Murdoch was head of LWT by this time, and they actually sacked Stuart Allen, who was the producer, who had been the producer Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4. They sacked him because they wanted Rupert Murdoch wanted them to turn out 2 episodes a week. Stuart Allen told them it wasn't possible, and he got sacked for it. But as it turned out, they never did go to 2 episodes a week anyway, even after Stuart Allen's sacking. So Stuart Allen, in my eyes, was the best producer director that On the Buses had. And you can see that in what you would say are the best series On the Buses: Series 3, Series 2, Series 4, then maybe Series 5, which was the first one that he wasn't involved in, if you see what I mean. So all of the best series were the ones that he produced, directed. Of course, Stuart Allen had a hand in putting the cast together as well, a big hand in that as well. So Stuart Allen was a big pivotal point of On the Buses. He's the one that organised them to use the Wood Green Depot up at Eastern National's Wood Green Depot on the buses. So it was a very important part to the show. So it was really a shame that they forced him out. Well, Rupert Murdoch did the way that he did, if you see what I mean. So that I would have done that better. I wouldn't have sacked Stuart Allen, but there are other things that you can think of, obviously. Like it might have been better if they had got a stronger character in for the tail end of the last half of Series 7, but I don't know if by then the cast had already decided there wasn't going to be an series anyway, because that was a cast decision. So, like, it would have been good maybe to have Eupha Joyce in more episodes. I thought her character was very good in the episode that she was in, or Jessie. Um, yeah, just trying to think of any other stuff. Yeah, I mean, when I if I do get round to doing that, which I hope to, get the fans to rate the episodes one by one, then I'm sure that you might very well find out that um, that the very best ones are all Stuart Allen produced, if you see what I mean. Just trying to think of any other things where they could have improved things. Probably they could have what they could have done better if that had been possible. I know they talked about doing another series in 1990. If they could have all got together again sooner than that, maybe the mid 1970s, maybe late 1970s would have been a good time to do it. 76, something like that, instead of the Radcliffe reboot that there was. If they could have had an On the Buses reboot with all the cast, if they could have got them all back together again, would have been better than the perceived. If it had have happened back on the buses in the early 1990s as well, I would say. More things will probably come to me, Neil, no doubt. Just trying to think now. I think you want to carry on posting your questions up while I'm thinking for more stuff there for you, Neil. Yeah, that was Wayne Westthorpe that played Little Arthur and Mutiny on the Buses. So attended a couple of the events I organised. Yeah, he was Scotty. He was also one of the inventors in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Wayne Westthorpe, yeah, Wayne Westthorpe's still with us. Scouse Allen, definitely. Kenneth Waller, no, I don't think Kenneth Waller is. Yeah, Sam Kelly, though, absolute legend in Porridge, a great supporting actor in Porridge. And also, he must have been a close friend with Ronnie Barker because obviously he went on to be in um, at least one of the musical sketches in Porridge, maybe two. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Well, if you think about it, the Carry On films made a whole film about toilets, didn't it? And Carry On at your convenience. Just trying to think of any other ways of things that could be or could have been done better than on the buses for you, Neil. Any characters I thought didn't work. Yeah, I'm the same, James, for the that episode. I don't like that episode either. For me personally, the On the Buses episodes that don't really work are the ones with that are awash with negative emotions. So for me, it's the three episodes that really stand out there are the visit with Blakey's mum, because she's really uh, detestable in it, if you like. There's no funny qualities to her whatsoever, if you see what I mean, and that's what it's supposed to be, a comedy. So that just blunts that episode straight away. The only saving grace from that episode is Jack with his bingo calling, and the when he's a bingo caller in that episode is really, that's quite funny. Um, Also, the episode Olive's divorce, where Olive just spends the whole episode crying her eyes out. So definitely that episode as well. The other episode is the one where Stan gets fleeced out all of his money by Charlotte Howard, by the Stella. She gets a job in the canteen, and she cons Stan out all his wages, then goes and gets a better job in the as a secretary to the depot manager, and gives him the cold shoulder. Again, negative emotions there of a rip-off element, which I don't really like the again, because it's got the negative emotions in it. Well, you see that in lots of things, oh Andrew, if you think about it. I mean, Crossroads was famous for its wobbly sets. Doctor Who was the same. They were all done on small budgets, if you see what I mean. Not that I know of. You could try hunting them down on Facebook. I know he's on Facebook. You maybe try contacting them through there if you're on there. Um, Maybe another way that they could have improved it as well, Neil, is obviously look to move someone else in and have some other really maybe try to approach another big comedy actor of that time. Maybe, I don't know, somebody who was big at that time, maybe a Richard O'Sullivan or something like that, that you would have been busy with Man About the House around then. If there was some other funny um, actor around then, well, loads obviously, that they could have maybe tried to get him to take over the lead role in it. It might have helped it as well. That was another thing I would say might have improved it. They could have done better instead of just letting it sort of like trying to get by with the main characters that they had left, if you see what I mean. Yeah, yeah, that's Judith Black. She was in several episodes. She was in the first spin-off film as one of the women drivers, and she's also in Holiday on the Buses. Sadly, she's passed away now as well. They could have tried bringing in somebody, I don't know. I mean, they did refer to him in an earlier episode, Uncle Herbert or something like that. Had they move into the house or something, or even um, it would needed to be another male, I think, that would have had to have moved into the house, if you see what I mean, so that they could have had that banter with maybe Olive chasing after them or something like that. So keep your questions coming in. Not that I can recall, not the full sets, because the sets was something that could be taken apart and sort of like use a wall for something else, but a wall, if you know what I mean. So no doubt they were used in various series in terms of a side wall or whatever, a wall with a door in it. But in terms of the full set, then that wouldn't have been. They might have had some of the furniture used, obviously, as props as well, but wouldn't have been a full blown set like the full blown Butler living room being used in another um, sitcom or even another drama series. Nah, it wasn't Blakey that really took the staff on. He did in some cases, obviously, would have a say in it. Um, But a lot of that sort of stuff you would have to do anyway. I know from times in the railway that it's only maybe one person that would run those sorts of things, if you see what I mean. So it's not too outlandish, really, especially back in the day then. It would have been even more a regular occurrence that one person would have been just to cut down on having more people doing what one person could have done at the time. I think he's best put down as a episode in Dangerous Driving when they're then doing the exercises and he brings along the skeleton and they try taking the mickey out of him saying that they think it's one of his relatives and then Blakey gets him in a great one when he says it's one of your passengers, he got this way waiting for your bus. I think that's a great line that Blakey has. Because he had a lot of really good lines. That was when Susie and Mutiny on the Buses, she kisses Jack for she's kissing Stan, then she's kissing Jack for helping him get Arthur his job, and then Arthur comes in and she kisses Arthur for getting the job, and Blakey's watching and he goes, what's it he says? She can't leave it alone, that's what he says, yeah. So I mean there's plenty of great lines that Blakey had. Nah, Reg's wife wasn't in any, nah. Every cast member had a connecting relative or pet that was in on the buses with them. So Doris had her two sisters who are Betty here, who played Aunt Maud, and Fanny Corby, who played the kitchen, the cook. Not Fanny Corby. But she played the cook, and you had Stephen Lewis actually had his own nephew who appeared in the episodes. The Elbus, he didn't actually play the actual nephew with the glasses. He was just one of the kids, an extra on the bus. Obviously, Anna had her husband Terry in it, and she had her pet dogs. Reg had Gene Varney in the films, and Bob Grant had his cats. His cat, you saw Tibbles in the very last episode. And Michael Robbins, of course, had his wife. Al Dyer was in the episode with him, the new nurse, and she was also in Holiday on the Buses. Not really, Neil. Not that I've heard of. Maybe Janet Mahoney was maybe not too enamoured with her time on mutiny on the buses, but that's about it, really. I mean, I can't think of anybody else. Well, it does, James, because you've got to think of the travel expenses and then the hotels when I'm down there, obviously. I mean, the locations can't be done all in a day trip. So it's normally will take 2 stays in a hotel. So straight away, you're looking at your 2 stays in a hotel being upwards of over £100. And today's day and age, especially, and that's before you even tap into the travel costs. Obviously, if I can get a trip down on the sleeper, I'm okay because I work on the Caledonian sleeper, so that's a free trip down. But the way things are now, it's not so easy to get that. So if you have to date and pay for train fares, and then obviously once you get to London, there's travelling to wherever you're going from in London. If it's Boreham Wood, it's a train journey out, train journey back again, or and buses to travel around when you get to Boreham Wood. So it all mounts up. No, I don't own any of the props. No, not me, Alan. Of course, it helps as well. The Patreon thing that you see on the screen on the homepage of the group. If you want to donate any money to that, then that money goes towards the likes of me traveling down and putting on the walking tours and all of that. They click on that button and it'll tell you what to do to donate to that, if you see what I mean. You might be able to find some on places like eBay, but it's very unlikely. The more likely come up on them and maybe auctions somewhere. But you need to sort of like Google around. If you run a Google on that, you might find some places, but those sorts of things don't come around very often, if you see what I mean. The thing is, O'Neill, when you say you were wondering, because we were quite often the subject of quite non-PC banter, that was of the age then. So they're smart enough to realise that that was what was the environment around about then. I mean, it's not like they were living in their heads. They knew what the society was going to be like in today's day and age, if you see what I mean. Back then, that's how life was back then, and you got on with it. You know what I mean? It's obviously today it's a lot different. If they were filming on the buses today, it wouldn't be it'd be a totally different experience for actors and actresses working on it. If you see what I mean, the scripts wouldn't be so non-PC and all of that. So that wouldn't really be a real issue at all. If you see what I mean. So, but back then that was part and parcel of the business. And a lot of the shows had non-PC humor to it, so they're all well versed and used to it. If you see what I mean, um, some would have accepted it, and others might have found it difficult. If you see what I mean, depending on their ages, really, I suppose. The really young ones that were young into the business. Um, might have found it tougher than ones that have been in the business for a few years who knew what to expect, if you know what I mean, from with the non-PC stuff. Cheers, James. You too. Stay safe and have a great Christmas as well, and a happy New Year. See you next year. Same retro. Hope you enjoy it later on when you watch it back through. Not that I know of, I wouldn't say Neil, because as I say, they're accepting of what it was like back then. Things have changed a heck of a lot since the late 60s, early 70s, if you see what I mean. So obviously they'll appreciate more of the business, what the business is like today in terms of that. But I know that I've spoken to a lot of actresses and stuff like that that worked on the buses, and they loved the humour that it was. So I don't think it really bothered them that much, because they realised that a lot of this stuff today you can get away with it in the comedy today, and the gist that I get from them is it's weaker for that, if you see what I mean. So evidently there was a lot of it that they did enjoy, you know what I mean? Obviously, some of the stuff that might rankle with them, seeing some of the ways that it portrayed them, if you see what I mean. But in general, I think they appreciate the brand of humor, was how popular it was, and it still is today, you know what I mean? So it's something that they can be proud of in that area, if you see what I mean. Now, there's nothing really stand out. I mean, the only things that there is, in terms of non-PC, is the word chalky, and it's not like they're calling them a black bee, or they're calling them like words that you heard in "Love Thy Neighbor" terms used. You know what I mean? It was just a a term of endearment that would sort of like portray his sort of like his appearance, if you see what I mean. It'd be like I'm the Scottish character and calling them sweaty sock or something like that, you know what I mean? Um, it wasn't actually a nasty like, oh, you black bee, or you Scottish bee, or something like that, if you see what I'm saying. Chalky, it wasn't exactly anything that you could say nowadays, oh, quick, ban that now. That was the only thing that there was that was even remotely sort of like, there was no swearing in it or anything like that as well. They got by and on the buses without the use for any swearing at all. So I don't see that there's any reason for any of the episodes to be banned at all, Andrew. Yeah, cheers, Jane. Thanks for popping in. Same to you. Have a happy Christmas, and a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, even. Um, and I hope you look forward to get all you want for Christmas, and I'll be posting up some new videos in the new year, obviously. So keep your questions coming in. As long as I've got questions coming in, I'm happy to stay online. Winnie. That was the name that I was searching for earlier. Winnie Braemar, also Doris Hare's sister as well, as was Betty Hare. So she had two sisters that actually appeared in On the Buses. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Scouse Alan. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Yeah, Linda, it's not changed at all, really. Yeah, happy Christmas to you, Paul. Merry Christmas, sorry. A lot of the time with their houses, if they don't change in appearance, it's normally because it's the same owner that's kept hold of the property. Obviously, they are happy with how it's laid out and everything. So normally houses change on the outside, especially when you get new owners and they've got new plans, how they would prefer it to look. And that's how you get changes to properties from the outside, maybe an extension added or a loft extension or something like that. Foggy night location. It's just a case of if you watch the video that's up on here, explain all of that. And hold on just now, see if we can post your link to it. Just bear with me just now. So if you look at that video there that I posted up there, retro, and when you get time, have a look at that, and that sort of like tells you how I find a lot of the my locations. Obviously, it's just through the likes of scouting around on using first Google Maps until you come to an area or a street that looks sort of like still makes it you get a look at a street and you think, oh, that looks topography. It's got the curves and the right curves. It's got trees on one side of the road. So then you can go on to something like Google Street View and go down to street ground level and have a look then. And then obviously if it all tallies up and you think, oh, I think I find it here, then it's just a matter of going down, actually physically visiting the location, because there's nothing like actually being there and you can see a lot of things that you might not be able to see on Street View, and then that confirms the location. Yeah, very cool, Paul. You know, well, you have a great Christmas anyway, Paul, okay? Cheers, Neil. Hope to see you again sometime. Obviously, I'll have another Q&A coming up sometime in the new year. Yeah, it's on the front gate, Linda, right by the side of the, as you're going into the holiday camp, you've got the gates. It's on the pillar that's on the right-hand side. It's just a plaque that says that it was placed there by the North Wales Film Heritage Trail, and that they filmed Holiday on the Buses there. Probably did. It was like a wee bit of a vacation for them, really, when you think about it. Yeah, the same gates, just painted a different colour. Obviously, in the film, I think they were like a battleship grey colour, whereas now they're like a black colour. So keep your questions coming in. As long as you've got questions coming in, I'm happy to stay online. There was just cast members who went on our filming location shoot. That's all it was, really. It's the same with the first film would have been filmed up there. It would have been the likes of Nosha Powell, Andrea Lawrence, Eunice Black, and Pamela Condell that filmed up there. Oh yeah, Sirius Three's your golden. I've said it before. Retro. Sirius Three is your golden Sirius of On the Buses. If you look how many classic episodes that probably would end up in a lot of people's all-time top 10, and most of them come out of Sirius Three. You're looking at Foggy Night. I do believe that was Reg Varney's favourite episode. Brew It Yourself, The Cistern, The Squeeze with a motorbike sidecar in it, The New Uniforms. That was the only episode that they actually had to stop filming because there was somebody laughing so hard in the audience. Ronnie Chesney at one of our events said it was the only episode they ever had to stop filming because somebody was laughing so hard at one of the scenes. You also had Busman's Perks and First Aid. So you had a whole stream of classic episodes from Sirius 3 alone. It'd probably be Sirius 3 for me. Then you've got maybe Sirius 2. Then maybe Sirius 4 or Sirius 5 or Sirius 1. And then Sirius 6 and Sirius 7, I suppose you would have to put down as the weaker episode, Sirius's. Nah, there was no pilot episode of On the Buses. Just went right on. It got signed off for 7 episodes straight away, and that was it. Pilot episodes are normally part of some other series before they decide that they're going to carry on and make it into a full series. I think the likes of Porridge was like that because that was 7 of 1. That was one. And I think Open All Hours was another that was like that. Rise and Damp was the same. That had a pilot episode because that was part of some other series before they decided to make it their full blown series. Yeah, because that was part of a comedy place, house series, if you see what I mean. And they decided to go for a full series from that because it proved so successful. So it's serious. It's not like that, like Only Fools and Horses. That didn't need a pilot episode. Stuff like Man About the House, that didn't need a pilot episode, or George and Mildred. On the Buses didn't get cancelled. LWT commissioned a 8th series. They wanted an 8th series, but the cast decided to call tight time on it. They weren't going to do any more because they didn't want to carry on to a point where people were getting fed up and saying, "Oh, not that old rubbish again." And they could honestly see, like Bob says in I don't know if it's the interview I've got in here, but he says by that time he and Stephen Lewis had run out of ideas by then anyway. So they all decided that it was a good time to call it quits and call an end to it because they had lost Michael Robbins and Reg Varney by then as well. No, that wasn't a real bus that you see on the beach. The real bus remained in service until the early 1980s. And then it was scrapped a few years later, so about 1985. Wasn't a bus that was actually in the sea, just very neat trickery. They actually used a plywood bus. Obviously, like I was saying earlier on, prop makers were highly inventive. They could make anything look like anything if they needed to. Um, and that's what you first see with the bus, the water lapping up around the wheels of the bus. And then when you see it out in the sea where it's hardly just a little bit of top deck showing, that is just a painting. That's just a painting of a bus. It's not an actual bus at all. They just was Les Bowie that done that special effects, who went on to work on the likes of I think it was part of the special effects. They won an Oscar on the Superman film. So all it was a glass pane that they placed sort of like, so it was sort of like the water in the background with a little painting of a top deck of a bus. So it looked like a bus that was under the water. It wasn't actually anything at all there, just a painting. Yeah, I think that was on TV the other night there, I think, or was the first Steptoe film was on. Can't remember which one it was. It might have been that film that was on was it maybe Talking Pictures the other night? I know one of them was on Talking Pictures a couple of nights, 2, 3 nights ago. Yeah, that was just all in our studio, the ferry scene. Location took what location took us longest? Well, it'd be the latest ones found, which would be maybe like probably ones from on the omnibuses. So there's ones like when mums went by the roadside where they're washing and the bus is coming along. It's the same stretch of road that you see later on in the episode when you see the nanny getting chased with a pram and the bus comes along behind her and she has to start running. Same stretch of road there, which has been found now, but not got down there to photograph it yet. It's one I hope to do sometime in the new year. I don't know when, about next year. But in terms of how long they take, I mean, there's ones that still haven't been found yet. Like as I say, the ones from the episode, I think it's Nowhere to Go when they crash a motorbike out in the countryside, and then you see the wheel running down past a finger post road sign in a country lane somewhere. Obviously, that's not been found yet. So, in terms of the average time it takes to find them, it just depends how whereabouts it is. Like if it's in a rare area that they hardly ever filmed in, they're the harder ones to find, obviously. There's other areas that were hotspots for your filming locations. So you get to know them quite well by visiting them a lot of times on Google Maps. So if you see something else that looks like, well, that looks like that area there, it draws you to it straight away and it makes it quicker to find it. You see what I mean? I mean, a lot of the houses that you see in the background in episodes, um, they've all got their own characters, if you like, characteristics, if you like the ones in Wembley have the sort of like mock Georgian beams. There's a few of their houses in there and a certain housing estate. So if you see them, you know that's probably the area that filmed in. So it narrows your search down straight away. Whereas your wood green buildings were more like your older red brickwork type buildings. So you know that you're looking in that area for those. And then your ones across in like for the opening credits that they used with the bus coming down the hill with mum standing there. You've got distinctive sort of like three-story buildings with distinctive features on them, which can pinpoint that area to look in, if you know what I mean. So it just depends what features there are in certain locations. Um, some can be glaring clues that give it away straight away, so you can pinpoint it exactly. You might actually be able to make out street signs, which is a godsend, or like the episode The New Inspector for Series One, you actually see over the back of Reg's shoulder the train station sign for Gordon Hill, so you know straight away there's a big massive clue, which is what you're looking for when you're trying to find these locations. So it just really depends what the location is like. Some might just be an obsolete country lane and they can be real beasts to find because you've got nothing to go on. One country lane can look just like another country lane. Then you've got to start looking for the most minute details for to help you along the way, like might be what's on the side of the road, like is it any pavement curb or is it just right into grassy embankments, or is there trees running along the side of the road, or is there any telegraph poles? It's little things like that that you need to look for as clues when you've got precious little else to go for. Tends to be the rural ones that are the hardest to find though, because one country lane looks very much like another country lane. Yeah, it's always great to see the cast having a when they start copsing, because it shows that they're having as much fun as what we got from watching them, if you see what I mean. So it's always great to see them having a laugh like that, if you see what I mean. And that was very easily done, though, Scotty. They just needed to adjust the lighting levels, basically. Okay, I'm going to call it a night now, I think, and wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Been online for nearly 2 3/4 hours now. So I'd just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope you get all you wish for on Christmas Day. And keep an eye on the channel, obviously. There'll be more location visit videos going up in the new year. And obviously there'll be another question time as well, sometime in the new year. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. I'll say good night to you, okay?